Well, let's move straight to the focus of our show today. Earlier in March this year, Nigeria introduced a modulation mechanism that will allow a reduction in petrol cost if there is a decline in crude prices, drawing closer to a phase where market forces determine prices of the product. They saw the first decline of fuel from 145 naira to 125 naira per litre. By the month of May, the Petroleum Products Price Regulatory Agency cleared private oil marketing firms to start importing fuel, having granted necessary permits. But before then, the NNPC was the sole importer of petrol. For the month of June, the PPPRA announced a new retail price band for all marketers within the price range of 121 naira 50 kobo and 123 naira 50 kobo. This followed a review of prevailing market fundamentals in the month of May and considering marketers' realistic operating cost as much as practicable. Joining me via Skype for more on this development is the Executive Secretary of the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Clement Isong. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Isong.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, a great Monday to you. Now, let's start with your take on the present pricing regime in the petroleum downstream sector.
Well, I would start by dividing the subject into two clear subjects. The first would be the importation, and then the second would be the distribution margins. I guess the most important aspect of the importation would be the question of foreign exchange. Foreign exchange, as we all know, is quite tight in Nigeria because of the crash in crude oil prices. And it's almost impossible to get. It's almost impossible to get. So NNPC today, PPMC, remains the major importer. One or two people have tried to bring in products earlier on, but as at today, as at now, nobody can bring in products. It's still back to NNPC that's bringing in the product. The template uses, I think, 385 as the exchange rate. I'm not sure who can access Forex at that rate today. So that is essentially what the problem is, access to foreign exchange. That is one of the key subjects. And then the second subject would be we need to arrive at an understanding with PPPRA as to what the real importation costs are. We're still in that process of having that discussion with them to try to arrive at a realistic importation price. If we are unable to arrive at that price, then essentially what will happen is PPMC will remain the sole importer of products because people really cannot bring in products at that price. The second subject that I talked about was the distribution margin. The distribution margin in Nigeria is, I think, about 19 naira 37 kobo. That is what gives gross margins to marketers. The problem is it really does not cover the cost of distribution in Nigeria. So that is a secondary problem that we also need to have the discussion with, or we are currently having a discussion with the PPPRA.
In all of this, it seems that this cannot in any way encourage major marketers, players like you, to start importing products. NNPC still remains the sole importer in all of this.
It is likely in the current situation to continue to remain the same. Remember that there was a subsidy regime that the country went through before this administration. There was a methodology of doing the subsidy, in which case the government said, go out and import. When you bring in the product, we shall make you whole. We shall pay you the difference between the cost of your importation and the pump price, which we have determined. The challenge was that that really did not happen. So ever since this government has been in office for 5 years, so in excess of 6 years, marketers were owed this subsidy. And finally, we've been given promissory notes, some of which will expire in 4 years' time, meaning that for 8 to 9 years, marketers have been owed. This has had a very difficult impact on people who are importing. And I think it has made them a little bit wiser. I'm not so sure people will be willing to take that kind of pain, again, that kind of risk to import. Which is why during this government, NNPC, PPMC, has been the sole importer, because they were the only one that could take the weight of the subsidy.
Very interesting. Now, there's also been an argument on another angle that allowing market forces to control the price, particularly of PMS. This argument has remained on the front burner. I don't know, how does this come to you?
Well, I think it's just two different philosophies. I think the world has moved towards the philosophy of market forces. The alternative is to subsidize. The alternative is for government to continue to pay the subsidies. I think we've all come to terms with the fact that I think over the last 10 years, the subsidy has been in excess of 10 trillion naira. I think we can all imagine what the country could have done with 10 trillion naira. We are in the period of COVID right now. 10 trillion naira could have provided us with decent health care. 10 trillion naira could have provided better education for all our citizens. 10 trillion naira could have provided infrastructure. Instead, we've essentially burnt it away through fuel consumption. So on the other side, if we did pay market prices for products, what would happen would be that you'd be able to take that money that we have spent on subsidies and invested in the human development of the country. You'll be able to invest in transportation, for instance, mass transportation. Currently, we are investing in railways. It's a very, very good development. We are investing in roads. It's a very, very good development. But we are borrowing for these investments, and it's a very expensive cost of borrowing. So some of us believe that the best way to go for the country is for us to allow market forces to determine, rather than to go back to a subsidy regime. I think it is not a national consensus. Most people have agreed that we do need to do away with the subsidies and allow market forces to determine the prices of petroleum products at the pump.
Okay, very interesting. Now, in your thoughts, I want to ask you this question straight. Do you think total deregulation of the downstream is the way to go?
Well, when you say total deregulation, let me define that. We are talking about deregulating prices. Yes, I think that prices should be deregulated. The industry, however, needs to continue to be regulated. It's a business that is a highly volatile business that is carrying, that commercializes very volatile products. HSEQ is extremely important. Health, safety, the environment, and the quality of product. Extremely important in this business. And regulation is key. In most countries in the world, regulation focuses on HSEQ. Regulation focuses on those kind of aspects. But for the price of the product, I think it should be allowed to react to market forces. Yes, the regulation of prices is the way to go, in my opinion.
Okay, I want you to also give us updates. We know of debts being owed by the federal government. That's to marketers. How well government done in paying back all of this debt? How well are we doing at the moment?
Well, first of all, we need to thank the government for making the effort to pay. We need to thank the government. Like I said, Many of these debts were owed from the last administration, And the debts went as high as 800 billion at a point in time. But what happened was there was an intervention by government, by the governor of central bank. They froze interest rates on these debts, I think since 1st of July of 2017. And 17 or 18, I'm not sure. And after that, the debt was frozen, and the government has paid through promissory notes. Some of the promissory notes matured this year. Some will mature in the next few years. Some will mature in 3 years, in 4 years' time. So it's been a really rough period for companies in this sector of the industry. And but government has done well. We recognize that government is struggling for revenue, struggling for cash, and so there is at least some clarity. Payments have been made, but they have been through promissory notes. Not everybody is happy with that, but what can you do? What can you do?
All right. On the final note now, aside the Forex issue and, well, government has done well, like you said, what other challenges or what other thing would marketers want government to do at this time to make PMS and, of course, other products available for Nigerians? That's what we want. We want to get to the stations and get PMS and kerosene and diesel to buy. That's what we want as Nigerians.
Well, I would say the most important thing would be access to foreign exchange. Let us know at what rate we will acquire foreign exchange. Let us know where to go to acquire it. Let us know the methodology. The most important thing is foreign exchange. Thereafter, the preference for any market is deregulation. So that would mean you deregulate importation, and you allow marketers to compete in the marketplace. So that is the best case scenario for us, deregulate the prices. However, if government insists on fixing the prices, then you need to reflect the actual market prices. You need to reflect the cost of importation, and you need to reflect the cost of distribution. What I can say to you is in many countries in the world, distribution, if I could talk about that for a few minutes. Distribution cost is about, if you're in a country and you get $100 per metric ton, that's a good gross margin. Most countries are between $60 and $80 per metric ton. That's okay, that's manageable, you can get by. When you start getting to $50 per metric ton for distribution costs, that's a problem. That market is really not interested. When you start getting to 40, then people struggle to survive. In Nigeria, the distribution margin on paper is about $31 per metric ton. Worse still, the distribution cost is significantly over that. So most people are running PMS at a loss. That is what the key challenge is. And that is what we need to address in our discussions with the government. We are trying to have that discussion. The problem really is that the distribution costs are higher than the margins that we are receiving. And it is not sustainable to continue like that. When we talk about margins, let me explain. Gross margins also contain your costs. So your capex for depots is in the gross margins. The cost of the investment in your filling station is in the gross margins. The cost of your trucks for transportation, the cost of your operating expenses, all your costs are in those gross margins. And at the end of the day, if you look at the pump price of 121, what actually goes to your bottom line, to your real bottom line, your net margin, your net profit, is less than a naira. It's less than a naira. The majority of that 121 is the cost of the product. And then you then have the 19 naira, which is the cost of distribution. And when you take out the equalization, which is 7 naira, and you take out all the other costs, what actually goes to the marketer should be less than 1 naira. Unfortunately, today, it is minus for the PMS channel. It is minus. And this is what the problem is in Nigeria. This is what we need to address in our discussions with the government.
All right, Mr. Thank you very much. That's Executive Secretary of the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Clement Isong. Thank you very much for spending your Monday afternoon with us on Business Nigeria. We appreciate your time.